Well, I love it. I'm all for the glitter, baby.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. I just want to give you a big hug.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really excited that you reached out and asked because I'm absolutely a huge fan of yours. And so it's really exciting for me also.
Oh my God. We have so much to talk about, Sierra. I had so many wonderful questions, but everyone just wanted to start with sending you some love and seeing how you are. How are you doing? We just saw you leave on Monday, and check in how you are now.
I'm doing great. It was definitely difficult to watch back. You kind of like live through it, and time goes on, and you definitely forget, right? The brain has a weird way of remembering good things and not bad ones, and so
Yes.
I would definitely say that looking back, it was tough.
Yeah.
I think it was just more so seeing myself so upset and not really being able to actually see myself that way, and viewing that, I was sad. Like, I watched back and I was like, I wanted to cry, and it didn't feel like I was watching me though, which is like really crazy.
I bet it's kind of surreal, right? Like it's sort of like not. It must feel very weird.
It does. It definitely feels weird, especially whenever like they're real emotions,
Yes.
and you feel an emotion and then you just move on, right, from it and kind of like go forward in life. And so to come back and watch something and to feel those emotions again of like hurt or pain or upset or confusion is kind of, it is weird. It's really weird because everything that everyone else felt, it's like you feel it too, but you're like, oh wait, the difference is like that's me and that's my life. Like,
I bet. And Sierra, I just thanks so much because I'm a big fan of yours, but I'm a big fan of reality TV and anyone who puts themselves out there. We talked about this yesterday, to be so vulnerable, to even go on this journey, and the rest of us to get the benefit of watching you. Like, thank you.
Well, thank you for watching.
Well, no, but thank you because I said I'm not a tea spilling kind of person, but I'm here really to look for like the lessons. And Sierra, everyone in the comments and everything that I've read, everyone's saying what a role model you are to other women for handling yourself with such grace and elegance. And I think being able to kind of have a boundary and also leave and say this is what I will or will not do is just such a breath of fresh air, like so beautiful.
Yeah, it was definitely not easy at the time. I think that kind of like in that moment, I just knew how like stressed I was mentally and emotionally. Yeah. And already being that stressed and then already kind of having this uncertainty and confusion kind of weighing on me, I just knew there was like no way. There was just no way I was going to be able to like reconnect with anybody, to try. I would be faking it. I would be lying. And ultimately, like at that point, why am I there? I mean, it's just like to make money and like clout at that point, and I would feel disingenuous to myself. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go home. Like,
yeah. So many questions that people had about Michael and how he could have, and even my post today, like there were other ways he could have handled it, right?
Yeah.
But we want to know more about you and your journey and your life and like what comes next for you. But in terms of that experience, because people had asked the question, had you felt blindsided about that piece of it, and how impressive that you got these stars too.
Gosh, I at the time was extremely blindsided. It was never like, watching back and kind of being able to see what was shared with others versus what was shared with me, it was definitely different information. And so had I been given that same information, I definitely probably would have stepped back or taken a different approach. And I think that's like the really important thing of communication and kind of expressing where you're at and things like that. And so the communication that I was getting was not the same communication as what others were receiving. And so for me, it definitely did hit me like kind of like left field. Is that the saying? I don't know if that's the saying, but we're gonna go with it. But
left field,
right?
Blindsided. Yes. And I can imagine that, like, there's the editing, and then there's the real-time experience, and what someone is saying versus what they might be saying to other people. I can imagine that. And here's like one day or a week on the beach. It must feel like it goes so long. Like, people don't get that. Like, these are real feelings, real emotions, because you go all in.
Yeah. And I think that that's a really huge one. I think that viewers should keep in mind is, when you're in the real world, you have work, you have, school, or, friends, you have all of these other distractions, your phone, TV. And so you go on a date and maybe you spend an hour to max 4 hours together, depending on how good your date is. And you have that once a week. Right. And so a month goes by and you've been seeing this person for a month, but in reality, you've only spent 16 hours with them. And I spent 16 hours in one day with him. So it's like, if you really think about it,
escalates it. Yeah.
It definitely escalates it. You don't have your phone. You don't have distractions. You don't have friends. You don't have family. You don't have TV. You don't have all of these things. You have each other. And so when you're on that beach, or even in the mansion, or anything at all, all you have is each other. And all you can do is talk to each other and communicate and connect, or sleep. It's one of those, or eat, And so you get to know each other extremely fast, and you dive deeply, because you can't really sustain anything after a day if you can't talk, and continue to talk to somebody. And so I think that's a huge thing. How often do we hang out with people and after a couple hours we don't have anything to say, And so what does that say when somebody can spend days together and constantly always have something to say? That's, it says a lot.
Right. And you told me such a beautiful story yesterday too, about the stars in particular, and why you even chose that. Tell people how you made that decision, because I think it was really just such an ultimate, sensitive, thoughtful gesture.
Yeah. So whenever Michael and I had first had our first talk, first real conversation, I would say, it was really random, and it was about, black holes and space and stars and astrology, and it was just all over the place, super random conversation. And then one of the episodes, it starts off, you can see us in the sand, kind of laying there before the rose ceremony or whatever it was. And that was us looking at the stars, kind of stargazing. And so it was kind of a theme. And for me, I'm really whenever I like to do gestures or gifts, I don't want to just buy a material item. I like to do things that have a story behind it, or a purpose, or just
or an experience or something. Yeah,
exactly, or an experience. And so for me, I wanted to do he had often mentioned his past and the pain with it and how important it was. And so because of that being mentioned often, that translated to me how important it was. Therefore, it's imperative that I acknowledge that this is something I'm okay with, moving forward. And especially, already having this age difference, already having all of these other things, kind of letting him know, yo, I'm here, I understand your situation, and I'm accepting of it, and this is me showing that. And so the stars were my idea of kind of saying no matter what happens, no matter who you end up dating in the future, whether it's me or anybody else, I'm very realistic about it, that you three are always together. You three are always together. You three are forever, until the day that you die, until the day that James dies, until the day that everybody dies. You're all together forever. And that's kind of the purpose that I wanted for that, was that it's irreplaceable. Your family's irreplaceable, and I will never understand that kind of grief, or that level of grief, but to kind of know that you are together even afterwards, it's just forever, and it's never ending. And so I wanted it to kind of provide comfort in a way, to kind of be a reminder, that
and Sarah, I just have to say, what emotional maturity, that what I so loved about you is that even on your way out with your own sadness and your own grief and your own disbelief, that you were able to talk about like yourself, but also the other person. And it was just such a beautiful way to sort of hold this other person. And you were having these important conversations about James and what would that look like. And that to me just felt like a woman who's more mature beyond her years. Like, I can't believe you're only 27. I'm like, wow, you're taking this seriously. You're showing up. You are, and we talked about too that mostly people who are anxiously attached are interested in these shows because they want love, right? And you do have to kind of go all in, because if you can't get there, if you can't fall in love, then you will look like some of the past contestants we've seen, right?
Yes.
And you're like, you're on a show to possibly get engaged.
Yeah, I just didn't want to regret anything, or like regret not going all in. And, the fact that I had the opportunity to like go on to Paradise, right? And possibly find love, and then not only like find it, but be able to watch my love story back, and that's kind of like what my brain was thinking is like, obviously you can find love in the real world doing all these other things, right? But like the difference is that I would actually forever get to watch my love story back forever, and then my kids would get to watch it. And just like, to me, it was a very exciting idea, and that's kind of why I went on. And like, I wanted to go in 100% and just not have any regret at all, and just kind of be genuine in who I am and like what they're gonna get, because like we do have a lot of like short amount of time. And so the fact that the time is so short, I didn't want them to have a different version of me off of the show versus on the show. And so I had to stay like as consistent of who I am and what you're actually going to get off this show as well. And so like that's kind of what I wanted to show.
And Sarah, what I also love about you, and we talked about this yesterday, how important your faith is. And I think so much of that did drive your confidence, your assuredness, but that you said you wanted to show up like a wife. And I tell followers like about yourself and your faith. And I was curious if Michael had the same faith as you.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is definitely something that I did bring up to him and brought to his attention. I was like, hey, just so you know, I go to church every Sunday. We're just going to be real. If this is a thing, we're going to have to go to church together. If you do or don't now, doesn't matter. Like, moving forward, this is something that I value and like I hold special. And he was just like, yeah, like definitely. Like if that was something that we ended up, like if we ended up together, we're going to church as a family. Like that's definitely something that I can get on board with. And so that for me was really important to kind of lay that out from the get-go. And, whenever he had relayed that was something that he would be okay with as well, that is whenever I was like, okay, let me dive deeper and let me kind of move forward from here. But my faith is definitely the first thing. Like, I want somebody who has the same faith just so that I can have a strong foundation within my family. And I think that is a big reason why it was very easy for me to make the decisions that I made when I was there, because I went in with very clear intentions, and I went in wanting to be a wife, like very, very clearly, surely wanting to be a wife. And for me, like, I want to show up as a girlfriend, as a fiance, as a wife, the exact same person. Like, I don't want to provide something different whenever I'm a fiance versus whenever I'm a girlfriend versus when I'm a wife. Because whenever somebody is saying yes or agreeing to being engaged, or yes and agreeing to being married, how do you know what you're agreeing to if that person isn't actually consistent in who they show up as in that first stage, right? And so for me,
I have courses on this, like how to date with intention, which is exactly what you're saying. You have to be your authentic self, because otherwise you stand to blindside somebody else. If you pretend like I'm the low-key, laid-back chick, whatever is fine, and then suddenly you're like, wait, who is this? Exactly. But show up exactly as you are. Say what's important. Like, you are stunning to say, this is your journey, and so many people are saying, Sierra for Bachelorette, that, like, that's who you want to be, your authentic self. And so applaud that. You were with the zaddy thing, and we love that. That was such positive energy. I just adored that.
And I'm very goofy in real life, and I think that's that's definitely something I get from my mother. My mother is extremely headstrong, extremely ambitious, hardworking, very strong woman, but she's also extremely silly, extremely goofy. She's almost like a cute little kid, but she's, about to be 50. But, but her energy is so youthful, and that's why my stepfather, fell in love with her, is because she brings youth and life to like their relationship, and now they're empty nesters, no one's in the house, just them, and she has enough energy for both of them, and they go on rides around the U.S. on their Harley, and they're just bikers, and they just went to Bike Blues barbecue in Arkansas, and they're just living this very fruitful life now, and it's a great example of what I want in my relationship. And so whenever people kind of see right now I am 27, and so it's like, she acts that way because she's young, but actually my mother acts that way, and she's my grown woman, right? And so it's just a personality trait that I think I got from her, and I love it because I know that my husband will never be bored. Never.
Listen, I'm a goofball, as you know, and my husband and I went on a bike ride today, and we did the same thing. Age is a number, right? But tell us, who would be a good person for you? And I did have a question from people about how you felt about an interracial marriage or relationship.
Yes. So for me, the ideal man for me, right, is definitely the number one thing is obviously a man of God. That's really important to me, but a man that has integrity. So does he do the right thing even when no one's watching? Does he do the right thing even though he can get away with it? Does he do the right thing for his sake, right? Even if no one sees, no one will ever know, will he still choose to make the right decision, even if it's the harder decision too? And so that's my biggest thing, is a man that has very, very, very strong integrity, but also just open-minded, ambitious and hardworking, and just emotionally available. Yeah, and being able to not only be emotionally available, but express those emotions and where they're stemming from, whether they're positive or negative. I think that's really important. So if you're feeling a negative emotion, don't just tell me you're angry. Why are you angry? Are you able to self-reflect and kind of dig deeper on yourself, or do I have to therapy you and try to dig it out of you? I don't want to do that. And I don't want my partner to do that to me either, right? I want us to be able to self-reflect and kind of figure things out ourselves, and then present it and say hey, this makes me upset because of this, or this, I actually really appreciate this because of this, and being able to relay both sides.
I totally get that, and I think that's a superpower that you get from being on the show and getting clarity about what you want and what's most important. People were asking in the comments, did you feel like you were able to could Michael match that? Could he give you feedback? Could he give you the closure? Did you feel like he was at that level for you?
So quite honestly, I when it comes to the closure thing, I got my own closure. I definitely didn't get closure from him, but I also kind of feel like I have a different belief with closure. For me, I don't think that closure is something that you get from another person and communicating with them. I think that closure is something that you have to do and figure out yourself internally, and you have to process things. And so it doesn't matter what he were to tell me. It doesn't matter if I were ever to hear from him ever again. I would still have closure, and because I created that closure. I closed it, and to circle back to the question on interracial marriages.
Yes.
I am an interracial child. My mother's Korean and my father is African American. So the only thing that I know is interracial. My stepfather is white, blonde hair, blue eyes. My oldest sister is blonde hair, blue eyes. My niece and nephew as well. So my entire family is extremely mixed. My aunts and uncles on my mother's side are Korean. And then I have one that is white. And then I have my grandpa and my grandmother on my mother's side, because they were all adopted, you know, all of the ones that are Korean, and my Aunt Ellen, but they're white. You know, my grandpa looks like Santa, you know, so he looks like Santa.
Very mixed.
And yeah, so everything in my life is actually like jumbled up. I actually didn't even know I was brown until I was like in 5th grade. And I was like, wait, I'm a different skin color? Like, you know, that's a thing, you know? And so I just saw people as people, and it was because I grew up in such an interracial home and upbringing. And so for me, it isn't weird or it isn't different. It's all I know. And to me, to have like a home that is like only one thing, like to me, that seems crazy. I'm like, everybody's like the same, like everything is the same. And like, to me, that's different. Right. And so, yeah, I think it's just like my upbringing was just very mixed up. And so for me, like, I mean, I'm probably gonna have mixed kids no matter what, because I'm mixed, but like, you know, like I'm attracted to everything. So
I love that. And I love that you're also clarifying what's most important: belief in God, a good person, that they're consistent. We talked yesterday a little bit about having some anxious attachment, which, by the way, the majority of women in particular do, and that what's most important for you is that the person is authentic, is consistent, because that's going to help you feel more secure, which is the most important thing in a relationship. To feel that you are they are anchoring to you, and even giving you space to have your feelings so that you don't get into caregiving, which is something that anxious people can do, to take care of the others and suppress our own emotions.
Exactly. That is a huge one. I think like people pleasing, right? And
yes,
I used to be an extremely big people pleaser growing up, and that was something that I was able to kill. But when I killed it, I kind of went completely polarized onto the opposite end of like kind of like F you,
like
F everybody.
Overcorrecting.
Yeah, overcorrecting. And I realized that wasn't good either. And kind of realizing that I do have, I do get anxious, but like recognizing what actually creates my anxiety was like the biggest thing. Because at the end of the day, if I have a partner who, if I know what my trigger is, and I communicate that with my partner, and they are aware of that, and like, if I am not triggered, I can show up as my best self and be the best woman possible for him as well. And that's what I want. I don't want to give any less of a version of myself. I want him to get a very secure and strong version. And I can only do that if I feel safe and secure. But I can only feel safe and secure if I know what my trigger is and I communicate it so that that person is aware and can take the right steps to not trigger me, and vice versa. I think it's very important that I also know their trigger, like, you know, and mine is uncertainty, right? And so if I tell my partner, like, uncertainty makes you very anxious, it makes me feel like I, like, you know, it stems from my childhood.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. And so, like, I'm not asking for tabs on you all the time. I'm not asking you to tell me a play-by-play. I'm asking, like, for, like, you know, you can't tell me we're going to hang out on Friday and you don't actually give me a time. Because then I'm waiting around for a time and I actually get very anxious, and then I will get agitated, and I won't, like, before I didn't know why I was getting so agitated. And I'm like, I'm in a bad mood this week. I'm so annoyed. And it's like, actually, I'm agitated because I'm triggered, because I'm anxious, because I'm just waiting around for a time instead of this person saying, hey, Friday at 8 o'clock. That this is what you can expect, and I know that there's no uncertainty, right?
And Sierra, if I had known that at 27, this is why I have my platform, which is to try to help women understand. Name it to tame it. Call it what it is. Ask for what you need. You're asking for more clarity. You're saying, I'll be less anxious, and then I can relax into it when I know. And oftentimes some people might see that as wanting too much control. But it is what makes you feel better, so what?
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, at the end of the day, if it's not harming, then what's the problem? So, like, it's like, are we helping or hurting? And one option is going to help and one option is going to hurt. And, like, I have to, but at the same time, like, knowing what I need, if I express that to someone and they tell me I can't do that, that's all I need to hear. It's like, okay, I thank you for telling me that you can't do that, because I'm not going to force you or make you do anything. So if that is too much for you, to give me certainty and to like give me like clear expectations on when we're meeting, or what we're doing when we're meeting, or like what we are in our relationship status. Like that's a big one too. Having clarity and not being in this ambiguous like state, right? If that's what I need, and if somebody can't provide that for me, then I'm a lot more grounded and secure with the decision to walk away, and not regret it.
Amen. I mean, this is a message to every woman. Don't dim your light. If I'm too much for you, then go find less, right? Like, if that's just the case, you can't really, again, you could pretend to be somebody else, but then you're going to suppress it, and then it's going to come out, and then it's not going to end well. Okay, we do have to get to the question, what is your body glitter routine?
Oh my gosh. So, I will say that there is a link in my bio in Instagram that has a whole article that says it, people. So if y'all would just read.
Okay,
but
I will screenshot it and I will link it, Sarah, because literally everyone's like, tell me the body glitter, like we need to know. But you looked so amazing that night. I was like, oh.
It is Fenty though. It's Fenty Body Lava and Fenty Diamond Balm. So I mix those two things. I do use a body oil from Diptyque. But that's not a necessity. You don't have to use that one. Mine is just more so the Fenty Body Lava and the Fenty Diamond Balm. And that's how you're going to get the glow and the sparkle. Because the body lava makes you glow. And then the diamond balm gives those like bigger sparkles. Like the vampire sparkles.
I'm going to go look at the link in your bio. And just a comment, did you want to like sprinkle that glitter in Michael's suitcase so that it was all over?
No, I didn't want to do that. I mean, he had enough glitter for days, I'm sure. Like, there was so much glitter all the time, so it was just like really funny. But no, when I left, it was more so like I'm leaving. Like I was just like I didn't even care about like him having a memento or thinking back. It was more so like I was so numb, I think at the time, like shocked.
And that's true. And Sarah, we could see that on your face. And I was joking about that. But again, you went down and you said goodbye and you handled yourself so well and said, I don't want to be here to watch a love triangle. I don't want to get myself into that. I think that was really just honestly one of the most confident and something for other people to kind of model after.
Thank you.
Someone asked the question, have you been in therapy? Like, how have you become this woman? You've been through some hardship. I want to hear about the pinky, too.
Yes.
There's a story there.
Yes. So I definitely have been in therapy. It was definitely a journey. So growing up, I think parentifying yourself and kind of having childhood trauma, that does create a lot of different responses. And so growing up, I was actually very angry all the time. I was filled with anger. I was quick to, like, my cup was very quick to overflow. I was also very independent. Like, I didn't like help from others. I didn't want help from others. And I also didn't I didn't want to rely on others because in my mind, others like aren't reliable.
Sure.
And whenever I got into college, that is whenever I started into therapy, and I also started with yoga. And yoga was a really huge one for me because it made me have mind-body awareness and be able to target the moment that my body is starting to feel uneasy and where that feeling is coming from. Is it in my throat? Is it in my chest? Is it in my stomach? And kind of connecting it with those like chakras. And I know that it's kind of like something that not everybody believes in or whatever, but for me, it's legit. And so I'm very aware of when my body is feeling certain things or when I'm having pains within my body, and then like what's going on in my life when I start to feel something, like some type of pain. And I use that
huge awareness. Absolutely. The nervous system is hypersensitive and you have to find a way to down-regulate.
Yeah, exactly. And so doing yoga and then also getting my certification as an instructor in yoga and kind of going down that route was a lot of healing. Like that had a huge part in it. And then also therapy was another one to kind of help dive, like the mind body awareness with yoga helped me with the right now moments. And then the therapy helped me with all of like the trauma and the triggers and kind of understanding all of these other things about myself to navigate forward. And so I would definitely say that it was a process that took years. I mean, I've been doing yoga for like more than 8 years, and I've been in therapy for like 3 or 4 years, and so and consistently. And so I think that has a big part in it. People kind of go like once or twice and think they're good, and it doesn't really work that way. Like it's almost like another form of a practice. And so just
Sarah, I do have a question. Do they offer you therapy support as part of the show?
They do offer therapy support. I have my own therapist that I had like myself even before the show.
Sure.
That I trust highly and just kind of had a relationship with, but I still did use like their therapy support as well. Okay. So that's something that's great that they do provide that. But I did have like my own too, and so yeah. And I also like to like research a lot and like things like you. Like I like read and like listen to like your channel and your reels and just like people like Brene Brown and like things like that. I just listen to all of these different people to learn, but I also try to be careful because I'm aware that I am a disagreeable person, and so I can't take all of the information that I like receive or read because some of it is not targeted for people that are disagreeable. Some of it is targeted for people that are more on their agreeable side. And so, like, I don't want to gain, like, narcissistic tendencies or, like, selfishness by focusing on the wrong information that I'm feeding my mind. And so, like, being very conscious of that.
Well, that's a wonderful point, and I do agree with you. You have to find people that fit and the message that fits, and you can get overwhelmed, inundated with too much, just content, too. But you just said something about boundary, and you made this quote yesterday about that sometimes people are using boundaries as another emotional manipulation about being selfish. And I'd love for you to tell people what you think about that.
Yeah, I think that boundaries are great, but I think that there's a very fine line between boundaries and selfishness, personally. Just because, like, yes, we all have boundaries and we need to have boundaries, but at the same time, I feel like often people are using boundaries as excuses not to show up or to show less and it be acceptable, and for other people to deal with it. And it's almost like if you don't accept it, you're the bad person. Like, this is my boundary, and if you don't accept it, you're actually the bad person, not me. And I think that's
what a lot of people now, right?
Yeah, and then it's shift blaming, and it's like for me, like being aware that sometimes people can use boundaries as excuses, and it's happening a lot more now. Like, I see it happening a lot.
It's a lingo thing too. Yeah.
And so I think that kind of being aware, like, if it is your boundary, why is it your boundary? Like, what's the why? Or is it is it contingent on things? Because that's another thing. Like, it seems like your boundary is pretty contingent on certain situations or certain people, and that's not okay either. So sometimes people just don't want to show up, and they want to have reasons not to. And so I just I will respect people's boundaries, but if I call bullshit on it, or if it seems like they just want to be selfish, then I won't, and I'll just walk away. I won't try to change their mind. I'll just walk away. And I think that's another thing. I saw another comment about kind of like the whole wife thing. Like, if you show up as a wife, they have to earn that.
Yes.
My thing is, like, if you show up as a wife and you're frustrated with somebody, a partner, because they're not showing up as a husband, then leave. Just stop seeing them. You don't have to keep seeing them. And so the only reason that you feel the need to make them earn the wife is because you have to earn the husband, and you're mad that they're not giving you the husband and you're giving the wife. And the thing is, if you're bringing 100%, and they're not meeting you there, then just leave. You don't have to stay with people. And I think
and I agree. And Sarah, it's so important for people to hear this message, because people will show you who they are. And it's all that you have to do is whether you decide to agree to be agreeable. And that's what dating is, right? You show me who you are. I either like it and we move forward, or I don't. But to be frustrated in that limbo, to try to think that I can change you, that's where a lot of women get stuck. And that's where we have to have the internal confidence to be able to say, I'm going to survive this. I'm going to get through this. There's something better for me out there. But a lot of women don't have that, so they stay and they accept breadcrumbs.
Yeah. And I think that kind of a lot of women like stay because your intentions aren't clear and your vision isn't clear on what you want, and there's no strong foundation or grounding. So you're easily swayed, or your perspective is easily altered. Because, you know, if you're somebody that just wants love and attention, and you start dating somebody who just seems like the best thing since sliced bread, and they're telling you, this is my boundary, I'm not doing this because of this, and this is the reason why, and if you don't accept it, it's on your, like, it's your fault type thing, and kind of not gaslighting you, but like kind of like making you try to feel shame or guilt for standing your ground. That is manipulation. That's a way to break down your wall, or break down your like confidence in your own decision making and your own the own trust that you have within yourself.
Being something other than who you are, right?
Exactly. And then people they end up settling, or they end up lowering their standards because somebody is saying that their standards are too high or too much, or if you don't change your standards, you're going to be single forever, or this or that. And I think that that's not true. I think that people are just so like often told to be less that they'd rather be less and then be like, at least I have somebody, than to be more and take the risk of like it taking longer to find somebody. Or
and Sarah, all of what you're speaking to is the proof and the evidence that therapy helps, that having confidence, that having your faith to rely on has really made you into this person who is, by example, just showing and leading with the faith that there's somebody better out there for you. So let's get to the story about your scar, though, because I thought that was fascinating. Tell me how you lost your pinky.
Yeah, so whenever I was 5, a swing set fell on me, and a pole cut it off. And so I lived in a small town in Kansas, and by the time I got to Wichita, Kansas, the finger was dead, so they just took it off. But yeah, growing up, definitely got like bullied a lot, made fun of, called the nastiest things, like, and so it was definitely kind of like something I tried to hide for a very long time, right? And then obviously, like, boys wouldn't date me because they're like, oh, that's weird, and they wouldn't want to date me, like, in high school or middle school or whatever it may be. And so I thought there was always, like, something wrong with me and, like, being less. And I realized that I'm actually, like, not. It makes me really unique, and it makes
it does.
Me, like,
it's like a cool thing. I love I only pay for 9 fingers.
Yeah, I do. I get 10% off. It's real. It's real. And it's kind of like they try to be like, and then I'm like, seriously, it's 2 + 2 = 4. It's 10%, 10 fingers, 1 is gone, that is 10%. You're not doing the time, you're not putting on that extra nail or painting that extra nail. Like, let's be real.
And you're saying also when you hold your hand, it's kind of like cool.
Yeah. Whenever people like do like grab my hand, it does like that finger kind of like your pinky will rest.
Yeah.
And it doesn't like you don't have like a finger kind of sticking out on the side, like you just have it resting like on top there. And so it is like this like perfect little handhold. And I will say like, and when I was in high school, because that was like the biggest time where I was most self-conscious about it.
Of course.
There was this guy that was like older, he was like 2 classes above me, one of the wrestlers, and he would grab my hand, just walking the hall, he'd come around me and grab my hand, and he would be like, I just love your hand. I think that it's so cool. It's the best hand-holding hand. And actually, when he started to do that, that's actually when I started to realize like, oh wait, like, there are people who like don't mind this or think it's cool, or like, like it was a really big thing to actually kind of shift my perspective on myself and have like more confidence on not hiding it. So that was like a really big thing.
Well, I absolutely love that. We talked about body glitter. We talked a little bit about Michael. It sounds like you felt really. Did you have any regrets?
I don't have any regrets when it comes to this show. at all. There was a time or a moment when I did return home and I thought, did I make the right decision? Crap. Oh my God. Should I have waited?
That's normal, sure.
And wanting to go back, and so there was that point, but I will say that ultimately, no, I don't regret anything. I'm very confident in the decisions that I've made, and gosh, I just I don't know. I'm just not regretful at all. Everything happens for a reason, and I think that it's like a butterfly effect, right? And so,
well, the reason is that we got to meet you and support you and be excited for your journey. So tell people. Somebody asked also, how has your experience changed your approach to dating? Are you more open now, or more closed down, or how would you say that impacted you?
Yeah, gosh, my experience to dating, it changed it in the best way. I used to fear rejection, and I used to fear pain, emotional pain. And I think that having that fear made a lot of reluctance in the actions that I took, or showing up as myself, and just worried about what other people thought. And through the show, I was able to actually welcome pain and welcome rejection, and just kind of I don't fear it anymore. And I think that because I don't fear it, I just show up as me 100%, because I don't fear what will happen if I don't. If they don't like me, cool. If I get emotionally hurt, cool, I'm stronger. And so, because pain is temporary. And when I remember that, I'm it's temporary. I'll be sad, but the saddest sad you can feel is actually really equivalent to the highest happiness that you can feel.
Sarah, that's exactly what I say in my quote, is that your desire for love has got to be bigger than your fears. Mm-hmm. And you have to step out of that. And again, what a beautiful example of saying, I'm going to go all in. Who knows what doors this will open for you. Tell us about where you're going next, your career. You dropped a song?
Yeah, so
oh my God, you're so talented.
I've been writing for a long time, gosh, since I was middle school.
Cool.
And I released a song back in May, and that song was actually about a heartbreak in the past that I had. And so I wrote a new song, and I will be releasing that in November. And that one is a happy one. It seems like it's sad. It kind of sounds like it is, but it's actually very sultry and sexy and seductive. And it's kind of to resemble passion and being hypnotized by the love that you have for your partner, and kind of showing up for your partner. And so that's what that song is about. And so you get a little teaser of it, and that I have with my reel. But I'll release other little videos and fun things as the time gets closer, and then a photo shoot that's connected with the song. But then the song will release in November. Yeah.
I love it. And is there anything else, again, that you want people to know, or advice that you give to someone based upon your experience, based upon love?
I would say that the biggest advice that I have for women and men, it doesn't matter actually, is to if you're gonna start dating, or you want something serious, to have very clear intentions on what you want and what you need, because those are not always the same thing. Yes. And if you know what you need, and then kind of weigh out what you want, you can't get what you want if you don't know what you need. So for me, knowing that I need certainty, knowing that I need these things to not get triggered, I can actually then get what I want. But if I just want things and I have no idea what I need, I'm going to get those things and I'm going to self-sabotage, or I'm going to ruin it because I'm being triggered or something, by something that I don't even know what I need, or why I'm being triggered. And so I think that the biggest thing is know what you need, and then know what you want. And then be able to search for a partner, because if they don't fit the need part first, it is so easy to walk away. It is so easy to leave.
Sarah, I call that either like the bread and butter or the cake and the frosting. It's like your bread is your needs, because most people, and I'm a couples therapist too, they have problems later because they're of their unmet needs. And that's what's going to drive people apart. So if you're giving me my bread, which is what I need to sustain, gluten-free or whatever, like the butter is the extra. That's the wants. Like they're 6 foot tall or they look a certain way. But you need, and knowing what you need, what bread you need, Christianity, a person to be consistent, and then expressing it, and then saying it, and then being clear, and then in the universe saying, this is really who I am and what I need, and this is going to make me the best person in a relationship with someone else who brings the same things.
Exactly. And so that's my biggest advice. That's my only advice that I really have is just knowing those things, because if somebody isn't what you need, it's just like the biggest thing is like the uncertainty of knowing whether or not you should walk away. And if you know that person can't meet your needs, it's like there's no uncertainty to know whether or not you need to walk away. Like you just know you need to walk away, and then that's that. And the person can beg and plead all they want, but at the end of the day, if they don't meet your needs, they don't meet your needs. And I can't meet your needs if you don't meet mine.
And Sarah, again, you had so much. You carried yourself with so much confidence, self-respect, but there was fun and playfulness too, and not too serious. And I just think, again, you'd make a great bachelorette. We'd love to just keep in touch, see what happens for you. I love the intentionality. Just to tell people, I actually have a course on how to find love with intention. And for fall, if they enter the promo code fall, they get $20 off. But it's all about that. I have like a 4-step process and like how to work through these things. And if you're anxious, to try to become more secure. But that's my platform, to help people. Try to give them what you've learned in therapy, essentially. Give them the steps and the tools, because of course we can go back and we can look at editing and what made the cut or what didn't. But this was a real relationship for you. You threw yourself in, and I'm sure that it was devastating how it ended.
Yeah, it was a lot the way it ended, because I did go in full-heartedly open, and to kind of feel like I didn't get that in return definitely was a bummer, because I don't know, I said, had that transparency been there, my actions would have been different. And I think that that's why it's so important to communicate good things and bad things.
And Sarah, we'll find out Michael's journey too as this continues, and I know there's things you can't say, but that's his journey, kind of separate from your journey, and we wanted this to be about you and about your story and about where you're going, and we're gonna maybe hear your songs and see more of you, and that this is just the beginning.
Yes, this is just the beginning. I'm definitely tapped into more creative things right now. I've kind of stepped away from that, so kind of being able to tap back into producing and getting music out there, and also sewing. I'm working on a jacket right now, and so creating different pieces.
A physical jacket?
Yeah, I make clothes. Yeah.
Oh my God, you're so talented. There's so many layers to you that people didn't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird things I would say that I haven't. I mean, I definitely don't make sense. But
no, don't denigrate yourself. You have a lot of interests and you have a lot of side hustles. That's great. That's an entrepreneur.
Yes, I definitely have an entrepreneurial spirit and mindset. But I'm really excited to I love to create things though, and I think that just creating new clothing pieces and kind of modeling in them and doing photo shoots and putting them on Instagram for people to see, and maybe I might create my own clothing line and start doing pre-order made to order type things with my own designs and stuff. And so but also doing music, and just kind of I'll choose eventually which one and then kind of focus on one thing, right? But right now just kind of dipping my toes in water.
You get a chance to check out a bunch of different things. I'm just looking really quickly. I think we've covered pretty much everything.
really did.
You have been so open, Sarah, and such a joy. Again, I just loved following you. I hope we keep in touch. You've got big things coming for you, and such a role model to other women about, don't settle. Don't let your fears of, don't say this is the only person for me. Say, if it's not working, it's better to cut it off sooner than later. It really is.
Yeah.
And then leave your heart open for somebody who is available. And another thing we connected about, because I told you that my husband is a widower, and that we used to say that he was certified pre-owned and I was like the new model. And that may work. There are good men out there, but it's a matter of them. I don't like the term readiness, because I think that's a tricky one about whether you're ready or not. I think we have to just find a way, in all honesty, watching this, to just say, this isn't working for me.
Exactly.
I think
it's
right.
just being honest. Like, if
Yes.
you are ready and, like, that person is just not the person, just say that. Just say that, like, yeah, I just don't like you. Like, it's not anything, it's you, and having, like I said, communication and transparency. And that's what's important, is to be able to do that, for both parties on both ends. And so, like, don't give roundabout reasons, don't go around the bush, or don't, like, say things.
We have to make it okay to be more communicative and to say, what I would say even in dating is, you're a wonderful person, I'm a wonderful person, but I can't will myself to feel it, and for some reason, there's something missing for me. And that's okay. You don't have to ghost. You don't have to say, I'm not ready, because maybe I am ready, but not ready with you, right?
Yeah.
Like, we get stuck in that languaging, and if we just gave people the tools, and I actually give examples of, like, how to break it down and have more secure conversations, because we just have to. And then when I'm a good communicator, then I know that I'm investing in myself, and then the next person will benefit from my good communication.
Yeah, and if
my
somebody
ultimate relationship. Yeah,
and if somebody can't handle, like, the honesty, then that is not, like, a you problem. That is more so, like, them and how they receive information, and that's a different issue in and of itself, right? But like you can be directly blunt and not be rude about it. Like, you can just say, like, hey, I do really enjoy our time together. I thought that we've had some great moments. However, when I think about my life and, like, what I do want after getting to know you more, I just don't see it. And it has nothing to do with you. It's just more so about my vision for my future.
Right.
And it's not you that I technically want it with, but I would like to be your friend, if you want to be. If not, I do understand. But, like, saying things like, I need space, or this or that, like, that is not the same communication. That's
right, because you're gonna need those communication skills. And that's where I keep saying, are you growing? Like, the question is, am I getting better? Am I growing? Because my final relationship will benefit from all that work I've done in therapy on myself, being able to talk about that. So you have been such a joy to watch, Sierra. We are so excited for what's next for you. And I have one final question. Will you accept my rose, Sierra?
Oh my God, I would love to. Wow. I can't take it, but if I could, I would. Oh.
All right, Sierra. We will be in touch, and I will repost this for people who've missed the live. And there's just so many nuggets, and I'm going to try to break that down and keep some of those nuggets. But here's to your journey for love. We hope to see good things for you.
I'm hoping to get me a man, get a ring on my finger, pop out some babies.
We're praying for you.
So, but yes, I thank you so much for having me on, Diane. You are amazing, and I'm going to continue to stalk you on Instagram.
I love it. Love it, love it, love it. All right, all the best to you. Thank you so much, Sierra.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.